everybody, we're gonna get started with our January Club Q. This kit is called Beautiful Winter. I love the colors in this, the yellows and blues, and we are suggesting for our Powder Puff chalking inks, Royal Blue and Dandelion. But I know there's lots of blue out there, different color Powder Puff inks for blue, and you can use any of those that you would like. If you want to add a little more turquoise to it, a little more teal, you can grab a different color. There's also navy. I'm trying to think of some of the other blues that are out there, but grab from your stash of Powder Puff chalking inks, whichever color you'd like. Denim would look really nice too. You could use sky blue, and any of the yellows would match also. So let's go ahead and get started. And to start with, I wanted to mention before you, and you may have already punched out all of your die cuts, which is totally fine. This one here, we are actually going to use this outside frame and this inside piece. So just make sure you don't throw that away. I'm going to go ahead and punch that out now. But we are using both of these pieces. So I just want to mention that before you throw this outside piece away. Set that to the side. And I actually am leaving all of my little banner pieces in until I do that piece, just because there's a lot of them and then you don't have to sort through them later. You can just grab the ones that you want. But everything else can be punched out. I'm leaving these in just to use as I go, just so I know which, it's easy to pick the sizes off of here. But if you like to punch them all out and get them all chalked up first, that's totally fine too. I am going to, like always, get our cutting diagrams out of the way, but I'm going to put out my background pages here. Make sure that they're both, we're going to kind of work on both, so I'll make sure they're both in the photo. And on this, we always add the cutting directions. If there's any ribbon cutting or paper cutting up at the top there, there is one diagram, which makes this kit really easy. There's not a lot of cutting to it. So we are going to grab the white piece of paper that is 6.5 by 12 inches. And we'll cut that one first. And what I do is I actually lay my, start here. I lay my diagram right next to it so I can see it as I'm cutting. And we are going to cut a 4.5 by 6.5 off the end of this. And it's already at 6.5, so we are going to, let's measure that, make sure. Yep, 6.5. We're just going to turn it sideways and cut a 4.5 inch piece off the end. And then I'm going to slide it in, and we need a 4.5 by 3.25. So I'm going to slide it into 4.5. Oh, actually, you know what? Nope, not 4.5. What I need to do is slide it into 3.25. But I caught that before I cut. So into 3.25. Trim, and then that same piece that's 3.25, we're going to turn it sideways and cut it at 4.5. If I get going too fast, just hit pause and start again when you need to. So 3.5 by 4, or 3.25 by 4.5. And this is just a leftover piece. You can use it for a little tag or something later if you want. And then this last piece is into a 4.5 by 2.75. So I'm actually going to put it in this way so that it's long this way, 4.5. And then I'm going to turn it and cut it at 2.75. So 2.75 by 4.5. And these are just little leftover pieces that you can use for little card pieces or scraps for later. They make good tags too. Okay, so that is really the only cutting that we have to do as far as diagrams. There is one that doesn't have a diagram, but it's super simple. This is a 2" by 12" piece of blue. We're gonna put it into 1 inch. And I always trim from the bottom so that when I do push up, it doesn't move your paper. So you push up and it pushes it right next to that there. And then from there, we need one of these pieces to stay at 12 inches. And one we will cut at, I think it's 5. Yeah, 1 by 5. And with that one, I'm actually going to turn it into a little dove's tail like banner piece here. And what you can do if you want to, I typically put the corners together like this and just trim back towards you, and that makes the perfect little tail. Or you can take one of your pieces that are already cut for you, and you can line it up at the end. I'll show you this in here. Line it up at the end here, and you can trim like that so that you have a perfect cut too. Whichever way, I just usually fold, don't crease it, but just fold the corners together and snip back towards you, and it leaves that perfect little dove's tail. Okay, the only other cutting would be to cut your words and your journaling pieces out here. So I'm going to put it in. I'm going to cut this top part first. And I know this is really skinny, so it's hard to get it right on that line. But if that cut line is still showing after you trim it, you can just chalk up the edge and you'll never even know that that line is there. See, I cut off just a little bit. Move it over so you can still kind of see the line on mine. But I'm going to chalk it up and nobody will ever know that's there. I'm going to just use scissors to trim off the end. And then I'm going to trim out my journaling pieces. Oops. Get it lined up. Same with this one. If there's a little bit showing, no big deal. You can trim it down again if you want to, or you can just chalk it up and cover up that little gray line. I know that some of you don't really get snow, and we have this wintry, gorgeous wintry paper, but I'm hoping that you guys have maybe some wintry photos to put in there, or maybe a winter vacation. We haven't gotten any snow here yet in the Pacific Northwest, in where we live in Chehalis, but who knows? A couple years ago, we got snow during the kids' spring break, so we might not get it till April this year. We'll eventually get pictures for this. Okay, once we have those cut out, I would chalk up some of your pieces, and I'll show you what I mean by, so I actually have, this is deep sea. You can also add some green to it too if you want to. This is weeping willow. This one's a little more teal. It's, oh, it doesn't have the thing on the back. I think this is actually jade, so it gives it a little bit of a green color. But I'll show you here, if you just lightly do the edge, you can see that there's that gray line there. Just lightly chalk up the edge, and nobody will ever know that I miscut just slightly. It's hard to cut these really skinny pieces. I love this deep sea color. It's kind of between royal blue and navy. So whichever works for you. You could also use the yellow on this if you'd like. Okay, so from there, we are just going to start layering our pieces on our page. We'll work on, the hardest part of this is getting the banner lined up here and which pieces go where. So let's just work on that first, and we'll work on page 1. Your largest blue backer, well actually I think these might be the same. Yeah, so one of the large blue backers, you choose which side you want. If you want the dot side to show, that's totally fine. And then you have 2 white backers here that were put in just singly by themselves. That's going to go on top of these. So if you want the dot side to show, we did the blue side, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then there is 2 different yellow dots. This is the one that came out of the frame in the laser. This is the one that's going to go on page 2. The bigger one is going on page 1. And then the 2 smaller white pieces that you cut, the larger one is going here. And I'm just going to kind of get this lined up how I want it before I start gluing things down. If you want to step ahead and just start gluing things down, that's fine too. I'm going to chalk some things up here in a minute and then glue it down. So just underneath that, and if you want specific measurements as far as how far up from the bottom and stuff, they are in the directions, but I'm just going by what I like the look of. So I'm just going down about 1/2 inch from the blue, right here, just 1/2 inch from the blue and yellow frame. And then this gets pushed right up next to it, the 1 inch by 12 blue. And then on your laser, there is a 1/4 inch strip coming off the edge of your laser. So if you have punched these out, make sure you find this little piece here. You may have tossed in the garbage, but it's there. There's a 1/4 inch piece dotted. That's why we say never throw anything out from the beginning, because we tend to like to use all of the pieces. And then from there, we are going to start the banner. And actually, you know what, I am gonna glue. No, I'll just show you how to put it down here, and then you can glue it when you're done if you want. Okay, so we are using both sides of the banner pieces. And if you look in the instruction sheet, you can see that some are shorter and some are longer. So as we go, I'll tell you which one to grab, and we will kind of lay them out there just like this. So the first one is a shorter yellow. So I think this is actually a longer one. So just line those up and see, you can see these are, this one is slightly longer. So you want one of the shorter yellows to start it off. And these are just going to go flush with the blue pieces. And right now I'm just getting this lined up, but if you are gluing things down, you want to make sure that this is flush. I kind of like to get it spread out and know where I want things. And then the next one is a long blue stripe. So we'll do the long blue stripe. And when you do glue these down, these will slightly overlap, but touch the blue part, the flush with the blue part. And after that, it is, let's find it here. It is this side, the blue stripe side, And one of the ones that are shorter but have the stripe on it instead of the dot side. That's gonna go right next to that. Just after that is one of the longer blue. It has yellow on one side, blue on the other, and it's one of the longer ones. That goes right on top of that. And feel free to chalk these up too before you get them all glued down. And then next is a shorter dot. So that's one of these. Next is a longer yellow dot. What did I do with that? Here it is. So a longer yellow dot. The next one is a shorter blue stripe. Next one is a longer, these ones are hard to see, a longer stripe. A shorter blue. A longer dot. So the other side of this. And one more yellow dot. Where is that? There you go. Okay, so you can see once you get it laid out here, I have it kind of off. So that's why I kind of like to lay it out before I glue anything down. So this is going to have to be spread out just a little bit. I may have overlapped just a little bit too much on a couple of these. You can also put them side by side. There's no reason you have to overlap. And then that fits nicely also. Okay. And once I have these all in place, I'm just going to pick them up and chalk them the way I want to and glue them down onto the page. So I would like to do these. Let's see, I'm using the Deep Sea. And I'm just doing a little bit around the edges before I glue this down. On the straight edge, a lot of times I just do that. I kind of like the messiness of it. And you can center that and glue it right down. I'm going to use a different color on this one just because if you want to add some greens to it. This is Weeping Willow. Or you can do it in yellow as well if you would like. I'm just showing you what some of these other colors look like. Or all blues. Blue is my favorite color, so I use blue for a lot. Totally up to you. That kind of brightens it up just a little bit with the green or the yellow. Okay, and then the snowflake that goes on, you want to choose one of the large snowflakes. And then a medium snowflake. So the two smaller ones here, they go on page 2. This medium snowflake goes on page 1. And again, you can chalk the edges of those up to add some color. I'm going to use Deep Sea on the back one. There's also like sky blue, which will be really pretty with this as well. With this one, I really like the darker blues. And then I think once you have these glued down, this gets put right over top. And I think that I'm going to do this one in green and add some more green into it. This would be really pretty in the yellow too. I just didn't grab a yellow. This gets glued right on top of it. I kind of like it with those extra colors. But in the picture I used all blues, so you do what works for you. And then to finish off this page, we have They already have adhesive on the back. There's some of these jewels that go right in the middle after you glue that down. And your page 1 is done. And then on page 2, we will do, let me find my pieces here. So this frame that I told you to save, this is the one that's going to go down in this corner here. Don't glue it completely down yet because we are going to stick some banner pieces in the side here. It needs to go about 1 inch from the right side of the page. Your smaller one that came out of the center that has the white piece that you cut that fits right in the center there. And that one also is a little more than 1 inch, 1/4 of an inch from the top, a little more than 1 inch from the right side. Your journaling piece. Your blue and white photo backer, and again, use whichever side works for you. If you like the dot side, that works too. And remember, if you are going to glue stuff down right now, you want to make sure and not glue this edge so that you can put a picture in there without this being glued all the way down on top of it. I'm going to chalk up this other little journaling piece and add some blue to it. This guy goes here. This is another reason I don't want to glue it down right away, is because I just want to make sure that I have things spaced like I like them. And then on the side here, you should have 1 blue banner piece that you cut the tail in there. That one is going to go in, so it's about a couple inches from the bottom, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch from the left side of the page. And you have a couple banners left in your laser cut here. There's one that goes across the bottom, and this one goes right in the center on the dot side. So once you have everything where you want it, then you can pick it up and chop things up, glue it down. Let's see, I'll use the green on this one just so it kind of matches the other page. I've seen which one I wanted the green on. This will work. This will go right, oops. And when you go to glue this one down, you just want a little adhesive around the edges so that you're not gluing right in the middle. Then you can pick the whole thing up and glue it down where you want. And then your, whoops, your last little bit here is your snowflakes, and those can get chalked up and layered. 1 big one, 1 small one. Do green on the front. And these can be moved around anywhere it fits for you. If you don't want to cover up that much of this picture, you do not have to add both snowflakes. If you don't need 2 journaling pieces, you could put one of the snowflakes here. Totally up to you. I'm going to do this one the opposite. Green on the big one. blue on the smaller one. And I'm going to add this here. Just make sure you don't glue that down until you get a picture in there. And then you have your little jewels. One goes in the middle of each of these, and there's small ones that go on the top there. And this super simple, wintry, beautiful kit is complete. Well, as soon as you get your fun winter photos in there. But this was an easy one this month. I hope you loved it. I love the snowflakes that were in there. I hope you have the perfect wintry pictures for it. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much for being a Club Q member.